Okay, this is 373, week 7, part 7. All right, cool. We're going smoothly here. Let's take a look at some other bits here. Oh, you know what I should, before I started this video, you know what I definitely should have done was figured out, oh, we're at the big temper tantrum, which is amazing. So he goes, and in the movie, he goes to a press conference, but he goes out in public, and he's supposed to apologize. And see, Brutus and Sicinius know that Coriolanus hates these people. So they're like, you know what, if we can just piss him off in public, he will say terrible fucking things. And then he'll embarrass himself in front of everybody, and then we can execute him or banish him or whatever. And that's what they do. They get him riled up and angry by being insulting to him. And they know he can't keep his temper. That's his weakness. So they get him. They put plants in the crowd to ask him insulting questions, and they get the crowd. They get a couple of people in the crowd to kind of chant against him because he's like, oh, he goes in there to say, I'm sorry, I'm a soldier, I don't know how to talk good, and they piss him off because if they piss him off, he'll scream and say how much he hates everybody. And to have a senator that hates the people is like a traitor. And what do you do with traitors? You kill them, you banish them. You kill him, but because Coriolanus is such a famous, important person, they just banish him. And Coriolanus gets, and notice, by the way, the thing that pisses him off is all the people going, it shall be so, it shall be so. Because the word shall is we're telling you, you shall do this. And that's the word that pisses him off because it's like he's not taking orders from these fuckers, and he hates them. And that and he's Sicinius. It's a really great detail. When Sicinius was talking to him, he said the word shall, like boss. He was bossing Coriolanus around. Nobody bosses Coriolanus around. And Coriolanus was so upset about that shall. So when Brutus and Sicinius are whipping up the crowd, they get them to say that word shall because they know that'll piss him off. And it does, and he loses his goddamn mind. And the speech that he gives is so amazing. It's so great, and it's such a tremendous speech. I love it so much. You common cry of curs, meaning you're a pack of dogs, whose breath I hate. There's that smell thing again. You common cry of curs, whose breath I hate as reek of the rotten fens, like a swamp, whose loves I prize as the dead carcasses of unburied men that do corrupt my air. Meaning, I value your love about as much as I value an unburied dead body rotting. And then he screams one of the craziest lines in all of Shakespeare. I banish you. It's a couple of things. It's like a very teenager temper tantrum thing to say. It's like your mom telling you to go. It's like your parents saying go to your room, and you're like, go to your room. Like there's something symbolic about it because he's like, you can't banish me, I banish you. But it's such a temper tantrum thing to say, and it's so funny. Although there is a line that's similar to this in the movie Watchmen, not the TV show Watchmen, which is good, but the movie Watchmen, which is terrible. But it's in the comic book too. But one of the characters. There's a superhero who doesn't have any superpowers, and he's been capturing criminals like Batman for years. And then he gets thrown in jail. And then he's in prison. And he's in prison with the people he put in there. And they're like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to fucking murder this guy. There's like dozens of them that he put in prison. And they're like, now he's locked in here with us. We can fuck with him. We can kill him. And so they start harassing him. But when they do, he beats the shit out of them and kills them. And they were so overconfident, and then he takes them down in prison, and he screams, you think I'm locked in here with you? You're all locked in here with me! And it's like such a good moment, because you realize, because for a long time, for the whole time he's in prison, you're like really worried about him, like, oh shit, this guy's gonna get fucked up. And then you realize he's actually happy, because he loves beating the shit out of criminals, and the fact that they put him in prison means he gets to do it every day. All right. I banish you, and here remain with your uncertainty, right? Because let every feeble rumor shake your hearts. Your enemies, with nodding of their plumes, fan you into despair. Because he says that without me, you're going to be scared every day about invading enemy forces. I was the only thing keeping the enemy away from you. And if you banish me, you're going to live in fear every day of your lives about getting taken over by foreign forces. So he says, remain here with your uncertainty. Let every feeble rumor shake your hearts. Your enemies will fan you into despair. And then he says, I hope you stay the way you are. he says, your enemies will fan you into despair. Meaning they don't even need to use weapons. They can just like blow air at you, and you'll freak out and run away because you're all fucking cowards. Have still the power to banish your defenders, till at length your ignorance, which finds not till it feels, making but reservation of yourselves, still your own foes, deliver you as most abated captives to some nation that has won you without blows. Despising you for the city, I turn my back. There is a world elsewhere. This line about how he says, he hopes, it's really one of the most insulting things you can say to somebody, which is just like, I hope you stay the way you are. Because he hates them so much, and so the greatest punishment for them is to keep being themselves. And currently, themselves is they have the power to banish Coriolanus. And he says, I hope you keep that power. He says, I banish you. He says, I hope you keep that power. Because he knows he's getting banished. He says, I hope you keep the power to do what you did today, which is take soldiers who defend the country and get rid of them. Because if you keep that up, you're not going to have any soldiers left, and then the enemy forces are going to take over without blows, meaning without even having to fight. Because there's no one to fight. You got rid of all your soldiers because you guys are all fucking idiots. It's such an insulting thing to be like, you know what? I hope you never change, because you've weakened the country by getting rid of Coriolanus, and he hopes that they keep doing it so that eventually they have no soldiers left and no one to defend the country at all, and then they will really screw themselves over. And then he says there is a world elsewhere. This is I like modern adaptations of Shakespeare. I like I like it when they modernize it. I have no problem with that. I have no problem seeing machine guns in a Shakespeare play. I think it's fun. But one thing that comes up in Shakespeare a lot that doesn't work in modern film adaptations, and you'll see this again when we do Romeo and Juliet. One thing that doesn't work too well is banishment, because they're kicking him out of the country. And really the city. They're kicking him out of the city. It's actually both Romeo and Coriolanus get kicked out of not the country but the city. The problem is that when it's set in the modern world, to have to leave a city or even a country isn't that big a deal. Like, I mean, obviously it would suck if you had to leave your country or whatever, but like, there's a lot of places you could live. The important thing to remember in both Romeo and Juliet and Coriolanus is that especially in Coriolanus, civilization is quite small. To get kicked, I mean, Romeo's upset because he's been kicked out away from Juliet, but still, living outside the city, it's not like moving from America to Mexico. It's like moving from, it's not like moving from New York to Mexico City. It's like moving from New York to the desert or to the woods. There's nowhere else to go. Like, he's not a citizen. Like, the world is, hundreds of years ago, the world, it's not like you can get on an airplane and go to a different city. But the problem is when you set a Shakespeare play in modern times, it's like, well, why doesn't he just go to a different city? Like, Aufidius has a whole other city. He could live there. It looks like an okay city, actually. But it's really, you got, when characters in these old plays are banished, they're being kicked out of, not the city, not the country, they're being kicked out of civilization. And that's what makes it a kind of a powerful kind of thing. And it's something, I spend a lot of time talking about stuff in Shakespeare that's still true today. Banishment as a punishment is not really one of those things. We don't really have that. We don't really have that as a thing. The only comparable thing is being forced to live in the woods or the desert or Antarctica or something. That's what it's like. You're really cut off from all of civilization. Okay, cool. Well, this is going really smoothly. I think we're doing a good job, and I will pick this up in the next video.